Ticketmaster. Anyone who has bought tickets to an event over the past 30 plus years has likely dealt with this company. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess that you haven't had the best experiences with them. I say that because I've been reading countless complaints, some stemming back to the 1990s, while others are brand new. They have been criticized by major media outlets like Time and Wired, and by multiple high-profile artists like Zach Bryan, who titled his December 2022 album, All My Homies Hate Ticketmaster. Bruce Springsteen is another artist who has had issues with them. In 2009, the Ticketmaster website was redirecting his fans, without them knowing, to a resale website called Tickets Now that they also owned, where fans were being sold tickets well above face value. Many of them felt tricked by the experience, and the boss himself said that he was furious with Ticketmaster over the way his fans were treated. It led to official complaints being filed along with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Then there were more issues in 2022 when Ticketmaster's dynamic pricing system priced some of his tickets above $5,000, which did not sit well with his fans specifically, but I should point out that most of the tickets were much more reasonably priced. Also in 2022, the whole Taylor Swift situation caught a lot of attention. The website for ticket pre-sales received more traffic than it can handle and crashed within the hour. To be fair, it was the most concert tickets ever sold by an artist in one day, but still, Ticketmaster assured her that they could meet the demand and they failed to do it. It was an aggravating experience for the fans, and Taylor Swift described the experience as excruciating. Again, it led to official complaints and lawsuits and a whole new group of people that were upset with Ticketmaster. These are just a few examples to show you that Ticketmaster isn't very well liked. In fact, John Oliver has labeled them as one of the most hated companies on earth, which I would say makes them a perfect subject for my series featuring the most hated companies on earth. Well, I don't usually say the on earth part because I feel like it's implied. To be clear, this video is meant to be as objective as possible. I do not have a personal grudge against Ticketmaster. I've simply witnessed a lot of hatred toward them, and I think it would be interesting to investigate it and try to explain where it all comes from. So I think I've proven that many of the fans wanting to see the concerts don't care for Ticketmaster, nor do many of the artists performing the concerts, yet in most cases, both sides are forced to use Ticketmaster. Now, right away, you might say we should get rid of them. They seem to be the middleman that nobody likes anyway, but the system is much more complicated than that. Aside from the artists and the fans, a concert requires a venue, like a stadium or a theater, and promoters to coordinate everything and put it all together. The promoters are the ones booking the performers, securing the venues, advertising the concerts, and hiring someone to take care of ticket sales. In the 1970s, the biggest company in charge of distributing tickets was called Ticketron. There were others competing as well, but Ticketron was by far the dominant one. That is, until Ticketmaster came about and completely changed everything. Ticketmaster was created in the late 1970s when a computer programmer named Peter Gadwall teamed up with someone who worked in ticket sales named Albert Leffler, both affiliated with the Arizona State University. Together, they developed a software for college campuses that made ticket sales more efficient. It allowed different vendors to connect with each other and sell from the same pool of available tickets instead of all being fragmented like it was before. It was a useful system that over the years slowly grew to control a small percentage of the market by the 1980s. Then, the next owners in 1982 were the Pritzker family. They are most known for being the owners of the Hyatt hotel chain, but here they paid $4 million to buy this emerging ticket sales company. They instantly put an attorney named Fred Rosen in charge of managing it, and it was his strategy that completely changed the industry. See, in the days of Ticketron, they would be considered an expense to the venue when putting on the concert, because the venue would be paying Ticketron for their service of selling the tickets. Does that make sense? Well, Ticketmaster adopted a new approach by raising the service fees that were paid by the customer and splitting that extra money with the venue. Do you know all those fees when you go to buy a ticket for something that make the final checkout amount way pricier than you were expecting it to be? Well, Ticketmaster splits that money with the venue, and in return, the venue agrees to use Ticketmaster as their exclusive distributor. Of course, I'm simplifying a complicated system, but that's the main idea of how they took over the industry throughout the 1980s. Starting in Southern California, making exclusive deals with venues like The Forum, who hosted all the Lakers and Kings games among other events, and using that strategy to take more and more market share away from Ticketron. They were signing deals with dozens of venues and acquiring many smaller competitors. By 1991, they had far surpassed Ticketron as the market leader and cemented that #1 spot when they actually acquired struggling Ticketron in a deal that seemed to be more symbolic than anything else. Now, I'm sure that there were always complaints about Ticketmaster, but to my knowledge, the 1990s is when the public really started criticizing them. They had just taken out their biggest competitor by using a method that charged customers more money and made the venues more restricted. Those were all things that the band Pearl Jam famously took issue with in 1994, arguably near the height of their popularity. In short, the band felt that the service fees were too much. They wanted the tickets to be more affordable to their fans, but Ticketmaster refused to lower their fees to a price that the band felt was acceptable. So Pearl Jam claimed that they would do the tour without the use of Ticketmaster, which proved to be difficult because all of those exclusive deals Ticketmaster had in place with the venues. They couldn't really find a place outside of the system, so their tour couldn't continue. The band even testified before a government committee claiming that Ticketmaster held a monopoly over ticket sales, but in the end, nothing legally really came of it.
It is well known in our industry that some portion of the service charges Ticketmaster collects on its sale of tickets is distributed back to the promoters in the venues.
The only real effect was that it was a major news story that made the public so much more aware of the practices of Ticketmaster and caused some early hatred toward them. So try to think about that for a second. One of the most popular bands in the world with a large fan base willing to see them could not make a successful tour happen without the use of Ticketmaster because they had so much control over the venues and the promoters. The next change in ownership was in 1993 when Ticketmaster was bought by Paul Allen. He was very much involved in the internet and computers. You may know him as the co-founder of Microsoft alongside Bill Gates. He spent an estimated $300 million to buy the majority of the company with the intention of raising sales drastically, mainly through utilizing the internet to sell tickets. And that is what they did, launching Ticketmaster.com under his ownership in 1995 and over the following decades continuing to utilize the internet in multiple ways to grow the company even larger. In 1997, the Home Shopping Network, whose name kept changing, bought Ticketmaster in 2 separate deals. Since there was so much hype around the internet being the next big thing at the time, Ticketmaster's online operations were combined with this other company called CitySearch and separated into their own company on the stock market called Ticketmaster Online-CitySearch. Remember, this was at a time when internet companies were way overinflated on the stock market, so they were able to utilize that high stock price to buy even more smaller companies. But once the whole .com bubble burst, that HSN company rebought the online operations from the public and recombined them into a single Ticketmaster company once again. I realize that all of this is unusual and may be complicated, so don't worry too much if you didn't follow it exactly. I just want to convey how, between Paul Allen and the .com bubble, Ticketmaster took full advantage of the popularity of the internet to grow even larger. Back to the list, in 2008, they were spun off into their own company that was back on the stock market. And believe it or not, it was only here when things really started consolidating. That year, Ticketmaster paid over $100 million to buy Frontline Management Group. They manage many popular music bands including the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, and Van Halen. Remember that the core of Ticketmaster's strategy has been to make exclusive contracts with promoters and venues, splitting the revenue with them that they collect from the customers. So you won't be surprised to hear that they had been working with Live Nation, the world's largest concert promoter that owned or operated over 120 theaters. Live Nation was receiving almost $100 million a year from service charge revenue that they were splitting with Ticketmaster, clearly making them 2 of the biggest companies of their kind, working together to control the concert industry. Well, in 2010, Ticketmaster merged with Live Nation, creating a combined company called Live Nation Entertainment that took a year to be approved by the Justice Department with only minor stipulations. So there you have it. Today, Live Nation Entertainment has significant control over every aspect of the live entertainment industry. In 2021, for artists, they promoted shows for over 4,000 of them and managed 450 of them through their management companies. For venues, they have exclusive booking rights for or partially own 320 of them, and for ticketing, obviously there's Ticketmaster, controlling 80% of the major concert primary ticketing market, selling over 100 million of them each year. So, to answer the question of why Ticketmaster is so hated, in practice, it's because of their extra fees, hidden sections, withholding tickets for the secondary market, control over so many venues, and everything else along those lines. But from a high level, it's because they are so big. big. Seriously, you cannot escape them. When Pearl Jam tried to tour without them, they couldn't. If Taylor Swift or Bruce Springsteen or Blink-182 or whoever else is unhappy with their experience with Ticketmaster, it doesn't matter because they're going to be forced to use them anyway. If as a customer you're upset about the hidden fees or the customer service or whatever, it doesn't really matter because next time you go to see a concert, you will likely be forced to use them again. For decades, they have been accused of being a monopoly, yet they keep growing larger. The Department of Justice has investigated the situation multiple times over the years. Congress has showed interest in getting involved, even President Joe Biden has hinted at it, but as of the making of this video, they haven't really been forced to make any major changes. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Ticketmaster? Do they have too much control over the industry? Are they abusing their power to make concerts too expensive and difficult? If you are one of the people that cannot stand Ticketmaster, why is that the case? Have I addressed it in this video? And if you happen to have a personal experience, I would be more than happy to hear about it. Or on the other hand, maybe you're fine with Ticketmaster and you think that everything they do is understandable. Purely from a business perspective, there is a lot to respect here. Introducing a new model so effectively that it takes less than a decade to control most of the industry and to use different methods to grow things even further from there, it is a unique story. So any thoughts you have about Ticketmaster, good or bad, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.